Hey, yo, what's up? This disciple Marcello Curtis Rain back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-America all day, anti-Freemason all day, anti-Satan all day, anti-Gangstalker all day, anti-Witch all day, anti-Warlock all day, anti-Telepath all day, anti-Psychic all day. So, look, this is something I need to address. There's people that are in the community that feel that Black power can rule in America. You think that if there was Black rule leadership committee, this would be a better country. You're waiting for the time where you feel that Black power will rule. You got this perspective that one day Black power is going to rule here in America. I'm going to tell you what the problem is with that perspective is that it's not enough, it's not any chastisement when it comes to the Black on Black killing and all of the evil that the Black community is doing. It's no proper chastisement by leadership. So how can Black power rule when there's no chastisement towards the community of Black community? Okay, how can it rule? It can't rule because it's not in the proper position to correct the people properly, to chastise the people properly. So how could it rise to power when it itself can also not submit to Black rule? Black people can't submit to Black rule. In fact, many would say here in America, the Black community cannot submit to any type of rule. Okay, what rule is the Black community in America submitting to? What rule are they submitting to? So you can't call it, can you? You can't tell. So they're not submitted at all. So how could Black rule when they are not submitted? When they will not submit? What will happen is, if Black authorities rule, Black people will most likely be able to get away with just as much. I hate to say that, but it's true. They will be able to get away with just as much because no one's correcting them now. So when something happens in the Black community, when there's horrific crimes that happen where children are killed, the only thing that leadership do is say, do better. This is the term that they use, do better. So that's not proper correction, right? That's not sufficient for proper correction, right? That's not proper correction. Just saying do better. You can't even say that to children. So how can you say, you can't just say do better to children, can you? So how could you say do better to adults and think it's going to be effective? If you do that with children will just look at you. That's all they're going to say. That's all they're going to say. And guess what? They're going to do it again. And that's what's been happening. Okay, so if there is no leadership that is tough enough to correct and chastise the Black community as it needs to be, how can that same leadership rule? Especially being that Black on Black crime is the greatest issue in the country. So how can Black power rule when we have Black on Black killing as the worst problem in the community? You see what I'm saying? That is going to be a bias towards it. It's going to be a bias towards it. You know what I'm saying? It already is a bias towards it. Because when you put it up against the killings that police do, it's a night and day difference, isn't it? So there's already a bias towards black on black crimes and killing. Now let a police kill somebody that's black. Let that happen. What happens in that case? It's hooping and hollering. Like whores at a pimp funeral. And you know that, and I'm not being funny when I say that. I'm just giving you an example, an analogy of people hollering all over the casket and hollering all like that. That's what people, and you listen, it's not that I'm not being sensitive to the actual killings itself. I am showing you the point is out of this is that there's hooping and hollering, right? There's all this wailing and all of this, you know what I'm saying? All this hollering, right? Okay, when it comes to a police killing one black person, every in the country there is at least one black killing every day. We don't hear no hooping and hollering about that one black killing. That most likely hits the news somewhere. It's somewhere. In one of these great metropolises, there is a black shooting somewhere. Can we all agree with that? Maybe because you're in New York, you didn't hear about all the other cities. But rest assured, there's somebody who got shot today. It didn't make national news, did it? It did not make national news. Black people didn't come out and protest, did they? And that's what I'm trying to show you. So how can black power rule when we're only preserving black lives or feel the need to preserve black lives when it comes to an isolated one person killing of a black person at the hands of a cop? Now we all in the trenches and all in the bunkers. But you're not in the bunkers concerning the consistent killings of black people daily in America. So my next question is, you don't think people see that contradiction? That's a yes or no question. I'm not asking for a long answer. I'm not asking for your anger. I'm not asking for how you feel I am. I'm asking you to be 100. You don't think people see that contradiction? You don't think people see that as, the next question is, you don't think people see that as a contradiction? And the third question is, you don't think people see that as flat out hypocrisy? Well, you're saying don't kill us over here, Black Lives Matter over here, but you're not saying it over there. As a collective community, you're collectively speaking, you're hollering about it, a black life being killed over here at the hands of police, but you're not hooping and hollering when it's done every day in the hood. So how can you have leadership that's pulled out of this community to rule over the country with that perspective and bias at play right now? It's become part of the culture. They come out when it comes to the police doing something. But just like the woman on Boys in the Hood, like Doughboy and their mama, stand on the porch. When Doughboy got locked up, she stood on the porch, smoked a cigarette, and flicked a cigarette, and went back in the house. Y'all remember that part? She smoked a cigarette, flicked a cigarette. That's a perfect image of what the community does when there's killings in the hood. People stand on the porch, smoke a cigarette, flick the cigarette, go back in the house, turn their back and go back in the house. But let the police do it. Oh, you gonna march all night. So how can black power rule in that case, bro? I'm just being 100. It's time for chastisement. Listen, this is good. See, what you don't want to recognize is that all of America is in need of chastisement. including the Black American community. I know. You didn't think this day was coming. You thought it was everybody else. But look, it's a collective American problem. Can we all agree on that? Can we all agree that all of America is messed up? So if we agree that all of America is messed up, that includes the Black community. So we don't supposed to address that part though, do we? We don't supposed to address that part. We supposed to act like that, even though it's the biggest problem of violence and crime, violent crimes in the community. We don't supposed to address that part, right? Okay. And this is where many people, this is where there is a split in the community, in the Black community, because if you're about preserving Black lives, it's a common sense thing. The first thing you're going to do is address the Black on Black crime in the hood. That's the first thing you're going to do. That's why everyone was puzzled and mind boggled at the fact that Black Lives Matter never came down to the hood. But I've been saying this, and then other people said it. We never seen Black Lives Matter in the hood. Not in a substantial way. Okay, I'm sure there's Black Lives Matter t-shirts in the hood. People wearing them in the hood. But I'm talking about the active members, the official members of Black Lives Matter, of Black Lives Matter. We never seen them going through the hoods in these hard hoods, have we? We never seen them in Compton, Brooklyn. No one has noticed this. We ain't seen them in Detroit, in the Midwest at large. We ain't seen them in the South, really. We ain't seen them, Have you seen them out in the boroughs of New York? You seen them in Chicago? But you do see them when the police do an isolated killing, don't you? So, I'm not the smartest man in the world. But if you have a group called Black Lives Matter, wouldn't it make sense to go where Black lives are? Wouldn't it make sense to go where there's a consistent problem with understanding that Black lives matter? Wouldn't it be common sense to go where Black lives are being lost and tell them that Black lives matter? But you're not doing that. We didn't see you do that. I'm not the only one that said this. I've heard others say this. We have not seen Black Lives Matter as an organization in the ghetto. I'm going to say a word that white people don't use too much and other people don't use too much. In the ghetto. So you can understand exactly what I'm saying. Because I say hood, you might say hood for your suburban neighborhood. You call that your hood. It's not a ghetto. We don't see Black Lives Matter in the ghetto. Right or wrong? And I'm not saying it's because of leadership, but I am saying it's because of leadership. You tell me what's the explanation for it. It's a big name that capitalized real quick. It was the perfect catchphrase. Look at it for what it is. It was the perfect catchphrase to perk everybody's ears up. But it failed, hear this part, it failed to execute proper preservation of Black lives, didn't it? And you know why? Because it practiced the same thing that the Black community practiced culturally. We cry about the police, but we don't talk about the Black Lives Matters, the Black lives that's being lost in the ghetto. Boom. They practice the same thing that you've been doing. Right or wrong? They go hoop and holler when the police kill somebody Black. But then they don't say nothing when it happens in the hood. So what you see is they actually became a perfect analogy and illustration of what I'm telling you. If black organizations rule, what they will do is they will be biased and talk about cops killings, and they will not address black on black crime that gets worse with every passing day, even now. They proved it. They proved it. They got the support of your community. They got the support, your backing. They got acknowledged by you. But they still continued after that acknowledgement to only follow the cultural path of talking about black on black killings by the cops. They followed that same cultural pattern and didn't and don't talk about nothing that goes on in the ghetto. So again, they follow the same cultural pattern of talking about isolated killings of black people at the hands of cops, but don't address or even come down to the ghetto. And it's a perfect example of why I'm telling you black power cannot rule presently until this is fixed. Until it is fixed, it can't rule. It can't. It can't because all you're doing, listen, because when you get in there, you're going to be like Black Lives Matter. You're going to be like Black Lives Matter. You're going to address these isolated killings at the hands of authorities, but you're going to let everything be humdrum when it comes to the killing in the hood. That's what I'm saying. And until you change this bias, you will not solve your problems of killings in the hood. How you gonna solve a problem you don't address? Oh boy, that's a 7 hour. How you gonna address a problem? How you gonna solve a problem you do not address? Make it make sense. How are you gonna get past a problem that you do not confront? And so it's getting better as far as the police situation. You know why? As far as how they treating, doing all the killing and stuff. You know why it's getting better. You know why solutions coming up? Because you're confronting it. But you're not confronting the black on black killing in the ghetto. You're not confronting that. And that's why nothing is being done. It's a common sense approach. It's spiritual mathematics. It's spiritual mathematics. If you don't put nothing towards it, you don't do nothing about it, then the sum total is what you're going to get is chaos. That's the spiritual mathematics in that situation. If you say nothing about it, you be biased about it. Hear that part. You say nothing about it and you be biased about it. The sum total equals being biased and saying nothing about it equals chaos and destruction. And the people that have, hear this part, the people that have the influence over the black community, and you're taking money from the black community. I feel because you're taking money from the black community and you're influencing the black community, you have a responsibility. The least you could do is be 100. The least you could do is be 100. You taking their money. You know, you have the power of influence over them. They wear your merchandise. They wear your clothes. They wear your likeness on their shirts. The least you could do is be 100 like a parent and bring proper chastisement to keep them out of danger and killing each other. That's the least you could do. But you're not doing that. You know what you're doing? You're remaining biased in the situation. And this is why you have the chaos. This is why black power cannot rule. So, because you might be looking at me and thinking, well, he can rule for us. How can I rule for you and you don't even accept proper chastisement? Huh? Make it make sense. I can't because when it comes time to be simply chastised in a common sense way, you're taking it as a problem. You're taking it as racism. You're taking it as a sellout. You're taking it the wrong way, just like a child being whooped and saying, "Well, you're whooping me because you hate me." You ever heard a child say that? You hate me, that's why you're whooping me. In all actuality, it's not because you hate them, it's because you love them enough to chastise them, to make them change their behavior in their direction. And you have to ask yourself, how much do you love the community? How much do you? Because if you really love them enough, you would hate to do it, but you would have to bring the proper chastisement. You would have to, just like a kid. You hate if you really love your kids, you do hate to spank them, right? Or discipline them, or whoop them, as we say in the South. Okay? You hate to whoop them, but okay, you want them to be better. You want them to be what they need to be. You want them to be protected from danger. So you have to execute chastisement and whoopings. And a good parent to say it's for your good. And I just want you to be better. Okay, so you have to question people's love. Because when you love and you see something going down the wrong direction, at some point you're going to have to bring a chastisement. You can't be lovey-dovey and you see somebody dying. You can't be lovey-dovey when you see it going down the wrong direction too long. You can't do it. You can't do it. Maturity has to come in. Listen to this. Maturity of leadership has to come in and say, I love you, but guess what? I got to whoop you. I love you, but I got to whoop you. I love you, but I got to chastise you. And that's maturity of leadership. That's maturity. Okay, an immature person is them cool parents. You know the cool parents? You know where I'm going with this. You got them cool parents letting you get away with everything, trying to hang out with you. That's what the leadership doing these days, ain't it? Trying to hang out in the hood. No, you ain't got no business over there. Not like you hanging. And you supposed to be leadership. You hanging out, you a cool parent. You the cool parent. You represent the cool parent. You laid back, ain't saying nothing what you need to say. And then guess what they do? They get older and they destroy you as a leadership. They disrespect you as a leadership, don't they? Just like cool parents get disrespected on the daily. A cool parent don't even get taken seriously. You don't even get taken seriously. You know why? Because you was too busy trying to be cool and you did not execute the proper chastisement and remain in a mature parental position. You didn't remain in the position. You tried to be cool, and that's all leadership is doing now. You're all cool parents. Yeah, you cool. They love you, but they ain't doing what they want you to do, are they? You know why? Because you resemble a cool parent. That's what it is. And you get disrespected in the process. When the proper chastisement time comes, guess what? Just like cool parents. When the proper chastisement comes, guess what happens? They talk back and forth to you. They talk back and forth to you. They don't have no respect for you. Because you did not remain in a mature parental position. You did not remain in a mature position as a leader. So therefore, you're not taken seriously. See, if you remain in that position, guess what? Eventually, the children respect you, don't they? Boom. They may look mad. They may look at you like they hate you. But eventually, the submission and respect comes. It's no way in the world this leadership is what is that. It's mature leadership that is submitted to by the black community with chastisements included. Submission included and chastisements included from you. You submit, they submit to you, and you hand out chastisements, and they still respect you as a parental leader, if you will. That doesn't happen, does it? You know why? Because you're the cool parent. You're the cool parent. You fit in. You know your influence and everything. You cool. You the cool parent. And guess what you raise? Guess what you raise? Unruly children, mannish children. What we say in the South, mannish, unruly, fast children. That's what we call them in the South. Unruly, mannish, and fast. That's what you raise. That's what you raise as leadership. It's parallel. It's very parallel. You raise mannish, fast, and unruly community. Oh yeah, they acknowledge you as leader, but you're the cool parent. You're the cool parent. That's what it is. And so what happens when a person like me comes along, guess what? You hate it, don't you? You know why you hate it? Because you're not used to getting whooped. You're not used to proper chastisement. You're not used to proper correction. So when somebody like me comes along, you think it's a sellout. You think it's an Uncle Tom. Because in all actuality, you lack proper correction and chastisement from leadership who is able to see better than you and understand better than you where you're going as a community. If you had all the answers, then you'll be further along. Obviously, you need leadership. And in order to have leadership, you must be willing to take proper chastisement. If you was able to do everything as you needed to do it and deliver the black people out of the community, why haven't you done it yet? Why has it taken 1,000,000 years for it to be done? You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because your community is not submitted to sound correction. Therefore, putting them in the position to get opportunities and monies from the authorities. You know why we can't get no money from the authorities? You know why we can't get no money from the government? And the Mexicans have government program neighborhoods. They have government program neighborhoods. Chinese people had Chinese program neighborhoods. That's why you got Chinatown. That's a government program neighborhood. Chinatown is all throughout these metropolises of America. You know why they got them? Because because they have government program neighborhoods. You know why you only get government programs and not government program neighborhoods? You know the difference, right? You got government programs and government program neighborhoods. The reason why you can't get a Chinatown, which is a government program neighborhood, it has to have government programs in it. Think about it. It has to have government monies and loans and stuff like that you've never heard of as a community. You know why they got it? Because in all actuality, they're not a big problem. The reason why we can't get it, besides racism, let's push racism aside. Besides racism, you know why we still don't qualify? Because we're too unruly, mannish, and fast as a community. So why would the government give us opportunities? Why would they? Why would they give us opportunities when we're unruly, fast, and destructive? killing each other. All you're going to do with a government program neighborhood is go there, spray paint everywhere, smoke weed everywhere, have sex outside everywhere. I'm being real. Smoking crack everywhere. And all it's going to become is a new ghetto, and you know it. You know it, and I know it. All it's going to become is a new ghetto. That's all it's going to become because the mentality is still there, obviously. So how is it? So you think people just going to snap off to another different mentality? It may last like that for half a year or even a couple years, but then everybody's going to set back into ignorance. That's what I'm trying to show you. So see, besides even, which is another topic, besides even Black power not being able to rule, Black community is not able to be delivered. Because if you deliver them and take them somewhere else out the ghetto, all they're going to do with the mentality that they have now is tear up the next situation, the next phase of the African American community. They're just going to tear up the next phase. Also, everybody going to go there and just be miraculously out of thug mentality and street mentality. Listen, come on. Out of hustling mentality. Dog eat dog mentality. Dog eat dog mentality. That's going to all be gone. Scavengers among us. Snakes among us. Parasites among us. Huh? That's all going to be gone. So guess what? We disqualify based on that as well. So those are the two PowerPoints where we disqualify. By community and by leadership that is playing the cool parent. Being the cool parent, you know what I'm saying? That's what the problem is. Those are the two reasons we disqualify for deliverance. True deliverance. I ain't talking about that. Well, you got some information. I'm talking about the real thing. I'm talking about the real deliverance. That's why I talk about real situations. And it seems like a pipe dream to you. You know why? Because you ain't got no plans and you ain't got no sense of bringing plans into reality and making this real. All you're doing is sitting up and talk about information on the internet. Many of you so-called Black activists and Black leaders, all you're doing is sitting up talking about information. Think about what I'm telling you. That's all they raveling off is all this information about Black history and what white people been doing and this, that, and the third, but you don't hear no solutions, do you? You don't hear what the real problem is, what disqualifies us from getting what we need, do you? All you hear is the problems and everybody saying right on, it's right. Okay, so from that point, now we got information. So what do we do next? What do we do next after information? We act. And how can we act in our condition? We can't take craziness over into another phase of the African American community. So guess what that means? A lot of people are going to be left behind. And guess what that means? You ain't going to do it. Because you ain't going to leave nobody behind. You're going to take Pookie, you're going to take Tay-Tay. You taking Big Bart, you taking everybody over there. And guess what? They're going to tear up everything. They're going to start tearing up the basketball goal. They done took the nets off already and everything. They ain't even at the recreation center, the new phase, the basketball nets is already tore off, man. Somebody ignorant want to be cool. Put them on fire. You know what I mean? And it looks cool, but it's destructive. A lot of stuff looks cool, but it's destructive. And I'm showing you real reasons, real problems, which means when you have a problem, look, now you can get the solutions. But if you never address the problems and lay out the problems, how can you even begin? How can you even begin to get the solutions, man? That's what I'm trying to show you. How can you begin to get the solutions? You can't, can you? You can't get them. You can't get them because you're too busy sidestepping the problems. That's what you're doing. You're sidestepping the problems. And therefore, guess what? Some people get out, but most of us don't. And that's how it is. And that's how it stays. Most of us stay in the hood and don't get out. Most of us do. And guess what happens? Everybody else remains. All the famous people come out and everybody else remain in the hood. Okay? That's what happens. And you can sit up and look for fault in me. You can sit up and look for flaws in me. But this is the facts, which means you have ADD, which means you have attention deficit. You cannot pay attention to what I'm saying. You're more focused on who I am and where I come from, instead of really listening to what I'm saying. Okay? If you bring black people out the hood into a next phase of African American community, what they will do is bring the same mentality that's in the hood and bring it there and tear it up. So that's why the American government cannot give you American government program neighborhoods. Like, in other words, Chinatown. You can't get a Chinatown because what you're going to do, if you get a Chinatown, you're going to tear it up. You're going to jazz it up. You're going to turn it out. Come on now, let's be 100. You're going to turn it out. And then you shaked up and shuffled up, so you got new people in the situation, and you're going to turn it out, man. That's what's going to happen. That's what we're good at. We're good at turning stuff out. I seen it. I seen it coast to coast. I'm going to give you a perfect example. When I was in San Francisco, living in San Francisco, there was this 7-Eleven down on Mission, right? And it was a place where I panhandled for money. I was in a situation when I needed certain things, and I just panhandled for money, right? Months went by, same situation, you know what I'm saying? I'm getting things I need. It was cool situation. People looking out, giving you good stuff and food and everything. And then it got turned out from the time I was there. Like, it got turned out. Like, everybody some people were just running in and taking food and running out. Like, and running out with stuff. It was getting turned out. And I just remained a person of dignity. You know what I'm saying? This woman from Europe started working there. And she would let me charge my phone there, you know, things like that. She was cool with me. And it seemed like before all the turnout, you know, when she first got there, you know, things were kind of cool. And then, man, I cannot make this up. It got turned out with all the stealing and everything, right? And then one night, around 9 or 10 o'clock in night, I just decided to walk down through there. And I cannot make this up. The whole thing was bricked closed. Me being from the South, I had never seen nothing like that in my life. The whole thing was bricked, not where you could still see in it, like it was an empty storefront. Not that. Nah. The whole thing was bricked. Like all bricks, they bricked it up. They totally bricked it up like a wall. Like you couldn't even see where it was at. It was no windows there, nothing. The whole thing was bricked over. And man, I just took heed to that. I got an epiphany, man. Like, I laughed hysterically, obviously, when I first saw it. I just couldn't believe it because I knew what it meant. I instantly knew what it meant. I didn't have to have nobody. I wasn't puzzled about it. I knew exactly what it meant. It meant it was turned out. It got turned out so bad. Man, they had to brick it up totally. Like with bricks, like totally, man. Like it was not even, it couldn't even be used for another type of store. They bricked the whole thing. They could at least kept it open for another type of store. They bricked the whole thing. And that was a result, that was absolutely a result of it being turned out. And I took I got an epiphany from it. And I realized, look, man, look at that. There was a nice lady from Europe working there. It seemed to be good. It seemed like it was cool. And man, look what we turned out. Look how that got turned out like that. And it just was an example of how us as Americans can just mess over something. And then it gets to a point where it's gone. You know, it's like that with everything. It's, if you look at it for what it is, it's everything that we had. You know, even some would say even the culture. The culture, we turned that out. You know what I'm saying? Just like that 7-Eleven. You know, we turned it out. We started telling about the street life and all of that. In all actuality, man, we have to be 100. You know, no disrespect to hip hop, but the street life wasn't meant to be entertainment. The street life was not meant to be entertainment. The struggle of hustling and all this snakery out here, if you will, all of these leeches and wolves and all of this, that was never meant to be televised or for entertainment purposes. But now up to date, you got movies about it and people sit up and eat popcorn concerning the struggle. You see what I'm saying? And some would say that's racist. White people sitting up being entertained by your struggle. Other communities being entertained by you rapping over music about how hard it is in the hood and et cetera, et cetera. Some people would find that a sense of racism. I even imagine that some white supremacists probably even like a little hip hop. It's music talking about killing black people. You will rarely find rappers that will insinuate that anybody can get smoke. That's what kind of person I am. I don't discriminate when it comes to my enemies. One thing about my enemies, I don't care if you're black or white. I don't care if my enemy's black or white. I do not discriminate. And I insinuate that anybody can get it. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. But when you listen to hip hop, what you hear is you're only talking about smoke with black people. That's all you talk about. Okay? And that being said, you know, you don't think some white supremacist sitting up just smiling and smirking at all this talk about killing black people? You have to wonder. Because see, what you doing is, see what the problem is you looking for contradiction in other people instead of looking at yourself. That's the problem, man. And listen, the bottom line is you could talk about racists, you can talk about sellouts, you could talk about all of this, but at the end of the day, as people say, you have become your own worst enemy. That's what it really is, bro. And you can sit up and act, you can deny it, and you can act like it's a love-hate relationship and all of this, and you can act like whatever you want to act like. But at the end of the day, guess who's killing you the most and hurting you the most? And that's what and does it. And so racism really, honestly, today we have already evolved beyond racism as the as effective and extreme as it once was, and we have evolved to now black people lynching black people. Because when you really look at it for what it is, racism, and that people that holler about it still now, it has already evolved to where now you're not being lynched. You're not being, and it happens some places. And listen, it does happen at the hands of police and wayward people in the community. But as collectively speaking, there is an evolving situation, physically speaking, to where now the real killings and slayings of black people happens at the hands of other black people. Now you have system racism. That, to me, the worst one is poverty. Poverty is the greatest racism there is. Okay, they ain't gonna call you out your name. They gonna just take money from you, so you can look inadequate to your woman. So you can't even look like a man to your woman. That's what they do. That's how they do it. And you can't do nothing if you're broke. What can you do? You can't even fight against them. You can't even get a proper gun. You can't even get a proper gun without the money. So racism, the new racism is money, the lack of funds, poverty. They ain't gonna call you out your name. They just gonna keep you broke. You ain't caught on to that yet? Oh, you think it's a lack of job opportunities? No. You think it's they doing this over there and they exclude you out of it or something. No. The new racism is poverty. And see, if you realize that, you would change your whole position. The new racism is poverty. It's been that way for a very long time. That's why everybody else is out the hood except you. And I keep telling you, you don't know why white people still got smoke with you. You know why? Because you still remind them. They pass down from generation to generation reminders that it is because of your ethnicity, they feel, is why they could not live a whole white American dream, because you begin to fight back and fight for rights and everything like that. So it wasn't really the Mexicans that was doing it. It wasn't any Hispanics and Latinos. No one else was resisting them like you. So they passed down from generation to generation that it was because of your resistance that denied them of a whole white America. And that's what keeps the animosity going, is the fact that they have to share it with you. Think about it. They don't want you here. Can we establish that? They do not want you here, right? So that's a constant reminder that you destroyed their dreams of a whole white America. That's what the smoke still is to today. If you was gone, it would be over. But now you're in the culture and everything else. See, so the real problem is this, is that you don't recognize why. Okay? And so guess what? They have animosity. And that animosity forms as poverty. Okay, since you destroyed our dream of a whole white America, we just gonna keep y'all over here. And that's why the hate is so strong. And they don't have it towards nobody else. They ain't really doing nothing to the Mexicans, really. Collectively speaking, not really. So why they still got to smoke with you? Because you destroyed they passed down information from generation to generation that you're the reason why they don't have a whole white America. They blame you for it. They blame you for it. They blame you for it. Okay? And so if you don't understand that, you'll be sitting back talking about, like some people do, well, I don't know why they hate us so much. I don't know why they hate us so. Because you destroyed their dreams of a whole white America. When we started resisting, that's what it is. And they pass down that reminder of that to each generation. And that's how it keeps going. They look at it like they just wanted to be here all here without you. Although they brought you here. I know it's crazy. They brought you here. But they acting like you should they acting like you shouldn't be here and they brought you here. I know it's a moron's perspective. But that's what it is. That's the reason. Okay. And see, if you had kept your nose clean and realized, and I know life has come with a lot of struggles and everything here, but if you had at some point put some water on your face and slapped yourself too and realized the situation, then we would be in the position to be able to rule, but we're not. We're not in a position to rule. We're not. You cannot tell me that. Because even if you were in a position to rule, the other problem is you can't take black people nowhere. Where you going to take them? They're going to tear everything up. They're going to mess everything up. They're going to turn out everything. That's what I'm saying. And so what you going to do then? We're now forced because we've been in this condition for so long, we're now forced to stay in that condition. Because the conditions have conditioned us. Okay? The conditions we have allowed the conditions to condition us. And now you can't go nowhere else. And until you realize this, you're lying to yourself. There is no hope. It's foolishness to think it is because, see, when you realize reality, you realize it ain't no hope. What's the hope? What's the hope when the whole community is engulfed in foolishness and violence? So if we take everybody out, what are they going to do next? How are they going to behave on the next phase of the community that we would go to? And that's what you got to look at. That's what you got to be 100 about. And that's what you got to keep your street mind open about. You know, you got street wisdom. So you already know what we're like. You already know that. So how we going to change if we go there? Huh? That's what I'm trying to, how we going to change just because we go there? And that's what I'm trying to show you, man. So it's just like, I address these things because it is necessary, because there are certain people in the community that you sit around and you target people like me and you think I'm the problem and you think, and you try to pull up like you want smoke. And I show you your situation. I show you your real situation where you couldn't even be brought out the hood. You can't even get opportunities from these white folks that would give us opportunities. But yet you sit back and look at somebody else as the problem when you your own problem, and you are your own problem to being free, concerning being free. So at the end of the day, you worried about the next man, or you worried about being free? So you're more worried about the next man or being free? Oh, okay. So you never was real about being free then. I'm real about it. I'm talking about it. I'm showing you, I'm breaking it down. I guess you wasn't real about being free. You just want to talk about the problems. Boom, Al. You just want to talk about who's the problem. But you don't want to talk about being free, because guess what that forces you to do? To realize your own ways that keeps you captive and keeps you from being free. See, when you start looking at being free, you'll realize, how are we going to be free? So what you do, is easy to focus on the problems. It's easy to make ministries out of problems. It's easy to become an activist about problems, because when you start talking about the solutions, guess what you got to do? You got to talk about the problems to the solutions. Well, you can't talk about solutions without problems, because now you're selling pie in the sky. You're selling pie in the sky. Okay? I'm not selling pie in the sky. I'm showing you what the problems is. I'm showing you what the solutions are. Yeah. If you don't address these issues, I mean, addressing the problem is the solution in itself. It really is. It's a solution in itself when you address the problem. If I'm telling you about the problem, that is a solution in itself. And that's the problem. We don't see it like that. You don't see me talk about these problems as the solution in itself. Whether it be the child marriage in the country, while everybody hooping and hollering talking about child molesters, and you got 43 states of child marriage. That's the solution. That's the solution to talk about this problem. Yes, it is. Because this is the foundation of hypocrisy that you have going on. This is what keeps you from being free as far as being legitimate in integrity. You can't be, listen, you ain't legit in integrity as a community with 43 states of child marriage. No, you're not. So it's the solution in itself to articulate this problem. You got it? And so if you don't talk about these problems and you don't talk about what we can do about these problems, what we have is people just talking about what's going wrong over there, but not what's going wrong over here, just like Black Lives Matter. They're talking about what's going wrong over there, but does that offer your freedom? Talking about what these police do to black people, is that your freedom? It's not your freedom, is it? And so you got people that build a whole organization and ministry around these things that ain't even they capitalizing off of. You got to look at it for what it is. We the best hustlers in the world. They capitalizing and hustling off of it. But they're not offering you the solutions. They're not telling you the problems over here so we can get to the solutions for these problems. Okay? We have to change in order to come to government neighborhood programs. We need that. Everybody can't be rich all together right away, right? We need better neighborhoods today. And some of y'all are stuck on where you come from, and you stuck on making these bad neighborhoods famous, and you don't want to come out of it. And you got to remember, it all belongs to the white man. I know you think it's your hood, but he put you there. And don't you forget, it's still government property, which means it's white man property. Boom. Yeah, don't forget that part. I don't care how hood it is. I don't care how funky of a neighborhood you live in. At the end of the day, it's still white man's property. Oh yeah, white man do taxes on it and everything. He does this, he does that, he does this, he does that. Okay? It's white man's property. Don't forget it. That's why you can't get connected to any of these hoods. Compton, Brooklyn, none of the boroughs. You can't get connected to none, attached to any of that. It's still all white man's land. And he formed it and placed you there as he did place you. Now you see what I'm saying? It's like you're lost out here. You know what I mean? Because you're under surveillance. All it is the place to put you under surveillance. That's all it is. And if we don't get ourselves together and get that mentality out the way, then you can't take them nowhere. We can't. That's the solution, is the mentality has to change. And the leadership has to change. The leadership has to properly chastise. But it's not doing that. It has to. That's the solution, though. The solution is proper leadership that chastise, and the other solution is bringing the mentality of street life away from the African American community collectively, so that we can qualify for the next phase of African American community. We don't qualify. And so it's easy to talk about problems over here, but not address the problems that will that hold us captive from being free. That's what I'm trying to show you. So everybody's sitting up talking about irrelevant stuff. I don't waste time doing that. I don't talk about irrelevant stuff. I talk about what needs to be talked about. I talk about these real problems as should be. And I talk about these real solutions as should be. You got these people out here screaming and hooping and hollering about child molesters in a country with 43 states of child marriage, in a country that has the world record for the lowest age of consent. The world record now. There are people that have a lower age of consent presently, but don't misunderstand laws. They have the world record that anyone has ever set in modern record day keeping, in modern day record keeping history. In modern day record keeping history, there has been no government that has had the lowest age of consent than America. They had it at 7 years old, having sex with 7-year-old girls in the state of Delaware. 7 years old, the government passed that. The government thought it was acceptable to have sex with 7-year-old girls. Grown men, not children messing around, not kissing cousins. No. Grown men having sex with 7-year-old girls. They passed that by law. They made laws for it. They wrote it down. Can you imagine somebody writing that down? And then they got the audacity to act like R. Kelly is a monster. That's what I'm tripping off of. Once I realized all this information, I'm like, how can they look at have looked at Michael Jackson as a monster, R. Kelly as a monster, because they've always painted us as savages, as these monstrous savages. You remember those old 1950 movies where they made the black man look like a beast savage? They still doing that. They still doing it. They're doing it through the court. They're doing it through these high-profile court cases on sexual crimes. They still making you look like, see that part? They still making you look like the savage there with these high-profile cases like Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. When you got all these, man, come on, all these pedophiles all around here. And let us be mindful that as far as the registered sex offenders, white America makes up over 60+% of registered sex offenders, which means more than half. So it's safe to say it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural problem in the white American community, more than any other ethnicity. They have this problem culturally. I don't know what it is, but they have this problem culturally where they have more registered sex offenders than any other ethnicity in the American community. So I'm trying to understand why these people are making it seem so shocking and so strange to them when they dominate the community as far as power. The white Americans dominate the community as far as power, system, and all of that. And so you already know that your ethnicity, your tribe is more responsible for sexual activity with children than any other ethnicity. Hands down. You have the most registered sex offenders. That speaks for itself. So I'm trying to understand why it's such a mystery to you when it comes to black people having questionable things in their sex history. Why is it such a great grand mystery to you when you make up more than half of the registered sex offenders as a community? Why is it such a mystery to you? Why are you so puzzled? Huh? And see, no one talks about this part. Oh, they'll talk about what goes on in the hood. They'll talk about they'll talk about rape. The black people do. They'll talk about all these assault and murder cases. You know what they kind of sweep under the rug? They talk about it, but they don't talk about it. Statistically, percentage-wise, they do not clearly say in plain English that white Americans make up more of the registered sex offenders than any other ethnicity. That's who's doing it. And this is not my assumption. This is based on percentage and actual activity and facts. Not and keep in mind also, they they are responsible for the 42 states of child marriage. We know it's the white tribe that has passed these laws. Okay, black people passed these child marriage laws. Native American passed these child marriage laws. That's blasphemous almost. So Jamaicans passed these child marriage laws in America. That's blasphemous almost too. So the Asian people passed these child marriage laws. That's ridiculous. Asians are not really even in the politics now, are they? So who passed these child marriage laws then? Hispanics passed these child marriage laws. Latinos passed these child marriage laws with all their kids they got. They the one passed the child marriage laws with all the kids they got. Come on, that's ridiculous too. So who passed the child marriage laws? Huh? Who passed the child marriage laws? The people the tribe that has the highest percentage in registered sex offenders, which is the white people, because as we know, because they have the power and authority and rule in this country, which means they put 43 states of child marriage into law as an ethnicity. It was their tribe. And when we break it down to what tribe it is, guess what? We can stop letting people sitting up here acting like it's some strange thing when R. Kelly and Bill Cosby come into the courthouse for some sex situation. They acting like it's some strange thing, right? But look at how these other guys who get caught up in stuff. Look how it doesn't get the same attention. That's real. Think about all the white guys that got caught in these high profile situations. They was in a high profile situation too. But look at the approach though. You feel me? Look at the approach. It's almost like we're entertaining even in that situation. It's like R. Kelly is still entertaining even in that situation. It's like Bill Cosby is still entertaining in that situation. And it's like Michael Jackson was still entertaining in that situation in the courthouse. They love to use us as entertainment. They trying to do that with me right now. Right or wrong. Right or wrong. Listen, I don't care what situation it is. White America uses African Americans for entertainment purposes. And in any situation, even in this situation where I'm not playing, you see how I am. I slide and I ride. I don't play. Right? They still see that as entertainment. Right or wrong. But it's not entertainment to them when their own people get caught up in the high profile child sex activity situation. It ain't entertainment, is it? Huh? It's not entertaining for them to tell you the statistics, the percentages that the white American tribe has the highest percentage of registered sex offenders. It's not entertaining to tell you that, is it? But it's entertaining for them to make all kind of movies and everything about black crime and black on black crime. That's entertaining to them, ain't it? But how many pedophile white pedophile movies you done seen? Like really, really breaking it down. How many interviews or these documentaries have you seen on white America and why they are so high in percentage as far as registered sex offenders in America? You don't see nothing like that, do you? Because see, what they're gonna do is they're gonna sweep that under the rug for them. See, what I call the pedophile in America that's from the white community, I call him Andy. That's Andy. Andy is my little sick little brother. He's my sick little brother, but we gonna give him a shed out in the back. He's still one of us. We ain't gonna shame him. We ain't gonna shame him. We ain't gonna shame him out here. We gonna keep Andy out there in the shed. We know he got a problem with messing around them children. But that's still Andy. That's still our family. See, that's what they do with these pedophiles. That's why you don't really explain why you don't really know they got a whole community when they more than half of registered sex offender, white American sex offender, how come you don't know about that community? Oh, I ain't talking about the bulletins they pass around. I'm talking about how come they ain't got no documentaries on it. You feel me? How come they ain't got no documentaries just on white American registered sex offenders when they make up most of it? Well, that should start the documentary right there, shouldn't it? Shouldn't that start the documentary that you make up more than half of the registered sex offenders, and we want to know why? And we also want to know why you walk around here with 43 states of child marriage acting like nobody does this. Like you don't do this, specifically. And you got these guys in Texas. Let me tell you something, man. I don't care where you get these white boys from. What they need to realize collectively as a tribe is that you, white Americans, make up most of the registered sex offenders. That's what all these Texans and any other cowboys and any other places you find these so-called tough white boys at. Wherever you find them at, won't you tell them they got 43 states of child marriage? Won't you set them Chuck Norris wannabes and John Wayne wannabes, won't you sit them down? Okay? All these John Walshes of the world. John Walsh had the American Most Wanted. Looking up these fugitives. But he couldn't seem to bring himself to talk about 43 states of child marriage, could he? He couldn't seem to bring himself to talk about 44 states of child marriage, could he? Well, we didn't hear him talk about it. Did you hear him talk about child marriage? John Walsh got a whole program, had a whole program from years. Oh yeah, I'm gonna make a video just about him. I've already made a short video about him. I'm gonna make another one. Because see, it's this projection that I have a problem with of justice that's projected in these cop shows and these CSI shows and Law and Order and America Most Wanted. It's this whole genre, right? Of all of this justice cop show stuff, investigating people, finding the bad guys. But what they leave out, what's the hypocrisy is that you got 43 states of child marriage. You got, while you filming CSI and you filming Law and Order, you filming 911 with Angela Bassett in it, and you had John Walsh doing all these American Most Wanted videos, trying to catch people messing around children. How you doing that? But you can't address 44 states of child marriage. And that you got the world record for the lowest age of consent, John Walsh. You got the world record, man. You got the world record for the lowest age of consent worldwide. How come when you got the ball rolling and you were passionate about it, how come you couldn't talk about the fact that the age of consent, America has the world record? John Walsh never got around to talking about that, did he? And I'm pretty sure he knows the percentage of registered sex offenders being white. I'm pretty sure he knows about that, doesn't he? See, that's what I'm saying. So see, all you get is these projections of justice, these projections of what the monster looks like. But they ain't showing you that the monster, as far as registered sex offenders, has been the white tribe. They ain't showing you that. They ain't showing you that, are they? See, you just gullible. You just as naive and green as they come. You go by these projections of pedophiles on TV, don't you? Meanwhile, listen, you got 43 states of child marriage here. Come on, man. You can't be serious, bro. You can't be serious. That's what we talk about. So, like I've addressed before, it's a certain, and I did a video about it. You are used to a certain type of pedophile. The ones that look sketchy, people that you think are pedophiles that look weird, that don't fit in, misfits, and who you think is misfits, those who you think are the pedophiles. But and so that's who you go after. That's who you like to hound. But then when I show you 43 states of child marriage, I hear crickets. I hear crickets like we in the South. Ow. And so you're so used to a certain style of pedophiles when I show you that the American government has the world record as far as the age of consent, the lowest age of consent at 7 years old. They signed paperwork to have sex with 7-year-old girls. When I tell you that, I get crickets. When I tell you the last child marriage law was passed under the Trump administration while Donald Trump was in the White House, and big as his mouth is, and he don't never talk about, he talk about everything, but he ain't never talked about this child marriage, I hear crickets. Huh? Because that's not what you want to go after. That's not what fits the pedophile image to you. The pedophile image to you is this misfit person, this weirdo person, this person that looks strange to you. That's what you go after. And more times than not, you're not even right about that. But then when I show you the classy and I show you the jocks, oh, you got a problem with that. When I show you that the real pedophiles are the alpha males and jocks in your American community. You got 43 states of child marriage. I'm pretty sure some alpha males in the cool crowd had something to do with that, didn't they? Boom, ow. Pretty sure some of these Freemasons had something to do with that, didn't they? Well, I'm pretty sure among these politicians that passed child marriage law in 43 states, I'm pretty sure we can find some Freemasons in there, can't we? Oh, it should be easy to find. I'm pretty sure. But you don't want to acknowledge that. You want to go after the so-called sketchy pedophile. You don't want, when I tell you the age of consent is under 18 in 40 states, I hear crickets. When I tell you the military has the age of consent at 16, I hear crickets. The military, your American military, has the age of consent at 16 years old, which is child vagina. That's not adult vagina. Last time I checked, 16 years old is a child vagina. So why does the American government, the American military, which is supposed to be a beacon of truth and direction for the American people, why do they have the age of consent at 16 years old? And why is it crickets when I tell you that? Because it doesn't fit the profile of the pedophile that you're looking for. You got a certain kind that you're looking for. Like you looking for a date. Yeah, I'm looking for this. This is what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. You looking for a certain type of pedophile. But when I show you in plain English that you got 43 states of child marriage in America, I hear crickets. Because that's not what you're used to facing as the pedophile. When I tell you never had it right as a community, you never had the age of consent right as a community, it's never been at 18 in all 50 states. I need to do a video about that. It's never been at 18. Which means Malcolm X could have addressed it and MLK could have addressed it. Oh, you don't want to hear that, do you? You don't want to hear that, do you? They probably would have killed them right away. They started talking about y'all messing with white babies and white men. That's what they were doing. They wasn't messing with no black babies. Well, then again, they wasn't they? But for the most part, they messing with them white babies. If MLK and Malcolm X would have told America about the age of consent under 18 in many states, them people would have been ignited with anger worse than what we seen when we telling them they messing with them white babies. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And listen, that's what separates. This is where you got to give me my respect. And this is no disrespect to the legacy of Malcolm X and MLK. They did not address the age of consent under 18 in many states. They did not address it. Okay, now you see my caliber. They did not address it. And hear this part. Malcolm X, more than MLK, could have addressed it because he was outing people from the Nation of Islam about impregnating teenage girls. Y'all remember that, right? He was outing a member of the Nation of Islam leadership about concerning impregnating teenage girls, right? Okay, at the same time, him being a student of what is not right in the government and what is not right in the government by law, how come Malcolm X did not point out that the American government itself is having sex with teenage girls? Huh? I'm not saying he was used by the American government. I'm not saying that. But it's kind of strange if you're already a student of correcting the government and its laws that while you're on the subject of impregnating teenage girls when you're outing someone from the Nation of Islam, it's strange to me that you do not point out that the American government has been having sex with teenage girls as well. I mean, you've been talking about the American government the whole time. Malcolm X was talking about the American government the whole time, so he's not one-track minded. You would think he would be inclined to see what the laws were while he's on the subject, being a man that studied laws in general. Just while he was talking about the Nation of Islam, you would think he would also say, well, let me go look up the laws, right or wrong. Boy, that's good right there. You would think so, right? That while he was even addressing the Nation of Islam concerning them impregnating teenage girls, that he would say, as a man that studies American laws and what is going on here in the government and all of that, you would think he would go and find out what the laws are as far as the age of consent, and he would open the book and seen everything. And you know what that could have meant? By many men's standard, we would have been, listen, these white men would have, many of them would have hated that. I think it's been a long kept secret for way too long. That's what I think. Huh? And Malcolm X and MLK didn't say nothing about it either. Okay? So that's where you give me my respect. Look at acknowledge what I just said. Malcolm X was talking about a leader of the Nation of Islam impregnating teenage girls. Why couldn't he talk about the age of consent in America at the same time? They impregnating teenage girls, they having sex with them and everything. And probably was a lower age than the age that he was talking about. In certain states, it's a mystery, isn't it? And that's where you should give me my respect at. That's what I'm saying. Because this could have been addressed, what I'm trying to show you, this could have been addressed way back then. You don't want to acknowledge that, do you? You don't want to acknowledge that we didn't do everything right, did you? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to come to terms with that. Because we're all human after all. We didn't do everything right. No, we didn't. While Malcolm X was talking about the Nation of Islam, he should have went ahead and impregnating teenage girls, he should have went ahead and addressed the age of consent in the American government. While he talking to a white man on TV about what the Nation of Islam is doing. Why didn't he talk about what the white man is doing concerning him with teenage girls? By government. That was a grand opportunity to address that. Because now you can see the balance. I'm talking about what the Nation of Islam is doing, and I'm also talking about what the government is doing. That's a 7th hour. But that didn't happen, did it? That's what I'm trying to show you. That's what I'm trying to show you, man. That's what I'm saying. That's why I deserve my respect. Because I am doing some things that ain't never been done. You don't want to acknowledge it, but that's what it is. Half of y'all didn't even know about this child marriage here in America. If I would have told you China was doing it or Russia was doing it, you would have been like, oh, okay. But when I tell you they don't have it. Crickets. Russia doesn't have child marriage. China does not have child marriage. So is America really better than Russia? Is America really better than Russia? Russia